Great to be here. Just got here from Dubai, just for you.
Literally this morning.
Got stuck in Toronto, so I was a little late. Really looking forward to it, and I cannot be more impressed by what I've seen so far. The use cases make the solutions of these technologies so real and impactful, and I've honestly been pretty touched by a lot of the progress that I'm seeing on a intellectual, emotional, and personal level. This touches, I think, in many ways what it means to be human as we're making the world a better place with technology and innovation. And this is when I want to talk about our Global Standards Mapping Initiative, which is one of the major projects of our research at GBBC. It has built on a massive amount of collaboration involving hundreds of organizations across our community. It speaks to the value of networks. It speaks to the value of working together to address problems and address issues from different perspectives, which is what we need. So, what is the Global Standards Mapping Initiative, and why standards? I'm going to talk about standards, what got us to where we are, and why it's important for where we stand here, Senate, US regulators, and this country. What are standards in technology and everything in life? Standards are basically common rules, agreed upon definitions, and protocols for how to work together, how to design things, how things work. It's basically focused on making products work. Like if you travel in different countries, there's different shapes of plugs, and everything else gets designed and produced accordingly. That's a standard. In food, there's standards for safety, and so that we don't get sick from chickens being either fed too much, too little, or the wrong thing. That's all a standard. And companies across the food supply chains would cater to that. In technology, it's really important to ensure functionality, that our technology actually works in order to even think of scale and getting anywhere, and that it functions at scale in ways that are interoperable, especially in blockchain, because we're talking here decentralized networks, we're talking peer-to-peer collaborations, and we are talking about community-driven governance, community-driven decision-making. So that emphasizes the importance of adhering to common standards. Standards also ensure reliability, that we trust a technology, and also safety, and that innovations can continue to build on each other. If something works, it can create ripple effects for other innovations built on it to work. And here we're talking tech stacks, we're talking protocols, we're talking, think of DeFi, we're talking sets of rules where innovations build upon each other. And here at GBBC, we've focused from the beginning on the importance of bringing collaborative working groups and other initiatives to promote standards as something that's key for scale. We have a token taxonomy framework that Wes knows very well, among others, that has produced technical standards for the tokenization of anything. If I tokenize my asset on my blockchain and Greg tokenizes his asset on his other blockchain, if we tokenize differently, we can't trade together. We can't work together. So we need common rules. And we're also, with our new BIDA initiative, really promoting tokenization, standardization through open data in supply chains. This is really important. I'll get there because we actually have a working group based on it. But in order for supply chains to be more harmonized, efficient, and echoing what a lot of Dale said, we need common standards. And again, we're standing here talking about standards. Often standards ensure that something works. When something works and we have common rules of the game, that is often a predecessor for regulatory developments as well. And we've seen that in other sectors. So our global standards mapping initiative with GBBC is a story of collaboration across different industries, across different stakeholders, from startups, corporates. Our membership represents academia, regulatory institutions, you name it. It started in, excuse me, we started in 2020 with GSMI 1.0, and that emerged as a very close collaboration with the World Economic Forum that was focused on really mapping out what legal and regulatory developments have emerged out there all over the world, and how have technical standards developed alongside all over the world. That was the crux of it, and the initiative as a collaborative approach was able to map, as you see, 185 jurisdictions based on regulatory developments for blockchain and digital assets. It involved a number of 379 industry groups working together to provide this information. And we were able to map more than 30 technical standards setting bodies that are looking to define technical standards for different aspects of blockchain technology. That initiative snowballed. By 2021 with GSMI 2.0, we added other key themes that directly or indirectly support the growth of standards. One of them is education. We mapped 389 university courses all over the world covering blockchain and digital assets. And we started a number of working groups to focus on aspects of technical standards as well as in-depth reports on key themes. And we produced 4. And obviously, we started to increase the level of collaboration and support. We brought in partner organizations to literally bring in fellows and scholars. And I'm going to explain later, but we have a wonderful set of people who join us for a part of the year, and they work with me alongside the rest of the team to help map out and produce this very comprehensive set of resources. By last year in GSMI 3.0, we focused on getting a lot of that data in a more interactive and user-friendly way. And obviously, we've expanded on the number of jurisdictions where we cover regulatory developments. We expanded it to 210. We expanded our standards bodies to 50 standards bodies that are covering the space. We grew our university course listing to 700 plus, and we added a map of stakeholders categorized by who does what. What are the main roles in blockchain and digital assets? We have wallets, we have exchanges, what are the different roles and how do they work together, and who actually belongs to those roles to make a difference. And we also built on the importance of having common definitions. Having common technical standards is very closely related to how do you define these things? What are we even talking about in order to work together? And this year, later this month, we will be releasing GSMI 4.0, which is, again, an update and a further snowballing of what we've been releasing every year. We have an interactive map of regulatory developments where you're literally going to be able to hover over a country and see what regulatory developments on blockchain and digital assets have been produced by key issue. You're going to be able to filter and really digest the information. If you think like, who regulates DeFi? You're going to quickly be able to see what countries have done what. We have expanded the taxonomy of definitions, and with the help of Ari and a number of others, a really great group, we have been able to document 220 plus key definitions. We've highlighted about half of those being priority for blockchain and digital asset, and the rest being obviously complementary. And as this is a neutral body and we are documenting the progress that it takes to define common concepts, we've realized there's actually several definitions out there, and many of them are actually very good, So we're producing an interactive tool where you can see the main definitions that are often produced by major standard-setting bodies like ISO, NIST, and a number of others. And you're going to be able to hover over key themes and see what the landscape of major definitions looks like. And Ishraq has been supporting and really pulling together the definitions that we give him, from the terms that we give him. So that's been great. We've been able to document by now 60 technical standards bodies. Technical standards are important, but they also come in different buckets. There's a number of movements that focus on best practices. There's other movements that focus on the code, the engineering, what the technical side of things has to look like in order, again, for technology to work. And then there's another bucket that focuses on how do things have to work in order to remain compliant with regulations. So we're adding that nuance. The landscape is obviously being updated with the stakeholders, who's there, who does what. There's been a fair amount of, like Heidi mentioned, bankruptcies and changes in the landscape. We're updating that. And as education in blockchain and digital assets is becoming more front and center, we have documented by now, also with the help of Ishraq and Joe, who you won't get to meet today, but he's also been doing a great job with us from CUNY, over 1,500 courses all over the world that produce either undergraduate, graduate courses, and professional certifications across the board. And we've documented them, created analytics by geography, by academic field, whether it be law, business, computer science, engineering. And we've also produced a country spotlight on Brazil. Brazil is really interesting. One of our co-authors thinks that he's a very, very opinionated advocate that Brazil is probably one of the most overlooked economies that is working on crypto and digital asset solutions. It's interesting because these developments are occurring over a landscape that has acquired the support of regulators from the standpoint of financial inclusion. They've developed a PIX platform where people already use digital payments. So in that context, the Brazilian population has shown to be much more open to experimenting with financial technologies, taking new risks, because they trust PIX so much. And the government has provided that trust in many ways. So that led to a leap in the use of crypto and digital assets for investments and digital identity solutions. And they call it, the central bank calls their goals financial democratization, anything related to financial inclusion. So that has been an interesting part of GSMI. In addition to that, we're also producing 4 in-depth reports from our working groups where we've had the pleasure to collaborate with brilliant and extremely innovative, creative, and absolutely respectable co-chairs. And we focus on supply chain, sustainability, AI convergence, and digital identity. I'm going to give a quick snapshot of the main themes of each report. Then I'm going to introduce some of the co-chairs who are here, and we're going to wrap it up. Supply chain is important in relation to our BIDA initiative that I know Dale, again, gave you a lot of insight on. We are living and breathing, everything we do touches upon supply chains. If I make a purchase online for like a birthday present, like Dale mentioned, it's an everyday purchase, or I go to the grocery store and I buy an apple. That stands on a very complex cycle of raw materials, production, shipments across different modes of transportation, across different countries, across oceans, ground, air, trains, for it to get to you. And often there's reverse supply chains when it's the wrong thing, or it actually is a sweater that doesn't fit and you have to return it. So those supply chains today basically are not harmonized. We need to harmonize them in order to improve efficiencies, reduce costs, and make the world simpler on where we land. And data, again, data, it's all about the data. We can't manage, we can't measure. and open data standards for supply chain are very important, and there's a call to action for people to join our BIDA initiative in supporting those open data standards for supply chain. Switching gears, when we focus on sustainability, Wes is also very involved with a lot of our sustainability initiatives, and in this report we talk about the concept that we live in an economy that has functioned upon very extractive relationships, often between the global north and the global south, where a lot of raw materials and resources originate. And those extractive relationships have developed a very linear format of commerce, where there's extraction, production, consumption, and often waste. Our supply chains today produce an incredible amount of waste. There's different statistics, and in food, it's huge. And in addition to that, the fund flows have shown that through those extractive relationships, funds have been diverted out of the global south into the global north. And even if they go back to the global south through payments for raw materials or any other commercial relationships, they often go through financial institutions in the global north that they take a cut through transactions and eventually lend back money to the global south at very high interest rates. So it's a very difficult situation to manage. And if you think economic development for developing nations is also convenient for developed countries, for everybody to work together, having better commercial relationships and whatnot. So we're looking at use cases in the Web 2 world and the Web 3 world, where blockchain is already making an impact in sustainability for the world. Carbon markets being a huge one. When we talk about AI convergence, Neil had mentioned very, very accurately, there's a lot of risks, and obviously Mark Young had mentioned, there's a lot of risks in AI, risks from centralization. We need decentralized platforms to improve trust. It's all about the data, and we're looking into use cases in financial services, in autonomous vehicles, and in government, where AI can be deployed for good with awareness of the risks in order to address them. And it all goes back to the data. The role of data, the role of blockchain as a ledger of data to validate, verify the provenance, and provide trust is huge. And finally, digital identity. Digital identity, there's so much promise in creating solutions for inclusion of populations, entire populations. For example, a billion or over a billion people all over the world don't have adequate digital identity. This cuts them off from access to basic services. How can we, through blockchain technology, be able to provide secure, privacy-enabled solutions for people to access the markets of the world, creating ultimately access to networks of productivity and exchange that are really going to bring into the fold of mainstream economies. So that's going to be the snapshot of GSMI 4.0. The process over the last couple of months has been incredible, working with a number of co-chairs. I'm going to mention them briefly. In technical standards, Neil here, along with Dan Conway from the University of Arkansas, have been great at getting the group to define what problems to address and getting a written aspect in addition to an analytical component. Taxonomy, we're working with co-chairs Brian E. Widdop from Hogan Lovells and Michael Wechsler from Queens College. Digital identity, we're working with a co-chair who's from Sankarshan, who's in India. He gets up very, very late and works at odd hours to support us. In supply chain, obviously, Dale and Greg Brown from UPS. AI convergence, we're working with Latham and Watkins, Jenny Tieplak. And in sustainability, we've been working with Blake Good from RFI Foundation and David Fortson, who is from Loa Labs, but also very involved with our Blockchain for Climate initiative, which is basically activist to industry movement to create collaborations to address climate. We've also produced a number of fact cards, which are visuals that basically tell you in one page, in your face, the main things you have to know on the key topics on blockchain and digital asset. They're sourced from our reports. So if you don't have time to read our full-on 20-page or more reports, you can see the key themes in visual format and see the relationships. We cover stablecoins, the green economy, CBDCs, crypto markets, blockchain for taxation, and more topics to come based on our reports that are to be published now. And I want to thank also our Milken Scholars and our fellows who have helped us along the way. The Milken Scholars come from our partnership with the Milken Institute. We get extremely qualified individuals to join us to support this project, mostly updating the regulatory map. They're often central bankers or heads of divisions from major institutions. And this year we had Gabriela Shibata from the Brazilian Stock Exchange and Abror from the Central Bank of Uzbekistan, who helped us with the Russian language regulatory developments research all over the world. And we really, really did a great job with tracking down the primary resources so that if you go to a regulatory development, you can click on the actual statute, the actual circular, the actual guidance, as opposed to summaries and news articles, which aren't as comprehensive. And obviously, Joe and Ishraq have been helping us find the definitions for our terms and find the university courses and do a lot of the really nitty-gritty work that has taken a long time, and we really appreciate it. And there's obviously a number of resources where you can follow GSMI, and we're happy to continue this collaboration.